Well, GTV9 is full of history, and no one knows the history of GTV9 better than Pete Smith. Pete, it is such a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for these videos. And there is so much history here at GTV9, isn't there?
Absolutely. Well, for instance, right now here in the courtyard outside the Cafe 22, as they call it, being 22 Bendigo Street, Richmond, look, we are standing on one of the true landmarks of Channel 9 in Richmond, and that is the GTV chimney.
So there's a chimney on the ground?
Yeah, there is. You notice the bricks are narrower one end than they are the other. You can't buy bricks like that because they're specially made for a chimney. And they were installed for the Wertheim piano factory originally. Then later, when Wertheim got out of the business, the Heinz soup factory took over. You remember 57 varieties? Well,
yes.
They made about 22 of them here,
right,
including a lot of packs, war packs for the diggers during the war were made on this site.
And the chimney, when it actually was still up on the building, it served a purpose for 9 as well.
It served a big purpose because it was our link through to Mount Dandenong, our microwave link, to get our pictures and sound up there so we could transmit to the greater Melbourne area. Yeah.
It's such a fascinating history, and there's a plaque here, and you were telling me before that it was quite unusual for the Prime Minister of the country to open a factory like the one that was built here.
It was pretty unique back in 1908, and about 2 years before, Hugo Wertheim, the young fellow who'd come out from Germany to open the piano factory, was on a train, so legend has it, going to Sydney looking for sites. He couldn't find anything in Melbourne. The MP on the train he got friendly with suggested he go back to Melbourne and check out another few sites. He recommended the Richmond site, and the rest is history. Then the MP becomes Prime Minister and comes down and does the big favour, lays the foundation stone. Pretty great, really.
A nice coincidence. And Pete, as we come to the end of GTV9 here at 22 Bendigo Street, you've been here for 47-something years. What are the biggest memories you'll take away with you?
Well, I think the comings and going of the general public. We have had literally millions of people through in our live audiences. There has never been anywhere else in Australia, let alone the world, that had such a prolific output of local live production. In the early days, it was all live because it had to be. There was no videotape. The kinescope process, the old black and white film, looked very dated. You couldn't pass it off the way you do today with Eddie and Hot Seat. So we had to do things live. So everything from early in the morning until close at night was all done live. Can you imagine the hectic atmosphere, but the exciting atmosphere? And mind you, I was a young bloke then, I could cut the mustard.
Well, I was about to say the parties too, I can imagine, that took place here.
Yes, not just the parties, but there was some naughty goings on here with the stars, because it was really like a stock company of players. Within Melbourne Tonight, which was 5 nights a week, headed up by the likes of Graham Kennedy and Bert and so forth, I had a bit part in it. Thank God I had a bit part in it. I've still got a bit part, otherwise I wouldn't be here. But you can imagine 300 people working on that show, 300 people on the staff, a live orchestra on the staff, not brought in casually for a show, on the staff, singers, 12 of them on the staff, a ballet, a full ballet, boys and girls, 12 of them on the staff.
It is amazing when you think about those figures. 300 people working.
It'll never come again.
No. It was a wonderful period of time, and to be part of that just must be amazing.
It's fabulous. Timing's everything in this business, and TV was such a novelty. I mean, I knew nothing about it. We were getting away with murder night after night, because the public, you know, they were looking at this one-eyed monster. They'd paid quite a lot of money for it, you know, probably a little 17-inch. That was the main size in those days, 17-inch. If you were very rich, you could get a 22-inch or something.
Wow.
So, you know, it was a big deal, and they were just watching it. And no matter what you did, the next day you were a star. And you were sort of mixed. I was flogging Colvan potato chips or something, or your lumber wines, because the live commercials, that was the staple. And the difference between the sell and the entertainment of the commercial was smudged. So I think the record, Graham did a Pal dog food commercial. His dog came on, Rover the Wonder Dog, a Labrador Retriever, wouldn't eat the Pal dog food, but by gee, they moved the tins off the shelf the next day.
And that was part of the magic, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And there weren't the regulations that are in place now. A 60-second commercial could run 25 minutes if somebody was in a mad mood. Such was the entertainment.
Well, Pete, thank you very much for taking the time out.
It's a pleasure.
Pete is actually going to join us again for a very special trip in our next video, so stay tuned. Keep going to facebook.com/9news. Post some comments, questions, whatever you want to put up there, but keep watching because something very special is coming up.
And remember, these videos are the videos of the century.
We've had a lot of technical questions about what happens here at GTV, and the man who seems to have all the answers is one of the legends of television, Pete Smith. Pete, thank you very much for joining us again. We really appreciate it.
You're very kind to say I know all the answers. I don't, but that Earth station there is our link with the outside world. Firstly up to Sydney via the satellite, which is sitting over Noumea. It's about 36,000 kilometres up to the satellite over Noumea, give or take a few thousand, and then another 36 down into the car park at our sister station, the network emanator TCN. So the signal goes up there, bounced off the satellite, the size of a car almost, and then down into the car park in Sydney and back out to the rest of the world. Quite amazing, really.
Now, Pete, the thing that strikes me about this satellite dish is that it seems much lower than a lot of other satellite dishes I've seen.
Yes, in deference to the residential area we're in here in Richmond, it was sunk into the ground, so it's down in a pit, quite way down in a pit. Otherwise, it would be up as tall as the Link Hut there, which replaced the old wartime piano factory and Heinz soup factory chimney, which we originally used to use when television started in '57.
Welcome to A Sigley Affair. I'm Mike Minion. In a divorce action in America today, a Mr. Clark Kent appeared in court, accused by his wife of not having sufficient sexual drive. In his defense, Mr. Kent claimed that someone keeps putting kryptonite inside his jockey shorts.
When television first started, we did test transmissions because when you bought a television set in '57, you had to have a technician come out and tune the set.
Is that right?
Absolutely. In the black and white set, you had a technician come out. That's why they had test patterns on all day. People were staring at test patterns. It was such a novelty, wasn't it? Let's face it.
Absolutely.
You had to have a technician come out and tune your little black and white set. Now, what happens? You buy your giant 50-inch plasma and they say, hooroo, out the door.
Yeah, that's right.
Out the door. Oh, look at this.
Now, it's great because that phone call covered a long walk over to here, but this is a piece of television history, and I'm a little bit geeky for this stuff. I'm very excited about this. This is how television used to be made.
It certainly is. It's the camera crane that took 3 people to operate it. The cameraman sat up there on the top of the pedestal. Then down here on the counterweight, as you follow it down, there was another operator to swing the camera around to get the different angles. And then, of course, for the mobility of the whole thing, it was motorised, of course. You had the operator here, operating the whole caboodle. So 3 people operating this machine when I first laid eyes on it back in the IMT days.
Poor old Mitch is trying to help us out by bringing it down so we can have a look at it. Thank you, Mitch.
The old Pi camera, one of the original black and white cameras. I think they had about 3 of them when we started, only about 3, which had to be taken out to things like the Olympic Games, for instance, and then brought back for the news. So you can imagine the workload that these beautiful little babies did. And look at that, isn't that exciting? 3 lenses, telephoto lens, close-up lens, medium shot lens, fantastic.
And
we used to mug into those night after night.
And they literally had to turn around to be the active one. You couldn't zoom in and out like you can now.
No, you could not, no, and the director upstairs would have to cut away from this while you turned the turret around. Marvellous. And the first person I saw sitting in this chair was Ian Crawford, one of the famous Crawford family, who later went on to Crawford Productions for Matlock Police, Solo One, The Sullivans, done only a few feet from where we're standing. So history, we got it in loads.
And the special thing about this camera is I believe it might actually be the one that that famous scene of Graham Kennedy when he lost control of his desk. This is the camera.
Oh, this is it. The dent. Can't you look? There's the dent down there now. Oh, yeah. The actual dent. Yes. Yeah, there's Graham Kennedy's footprint in there. He almost broke his foot.
Now, that is the thing about here, the history. I mean, it blows my mind. Everywhere you walk around, it's history, history, history. And that will be sorely missed.
It will. This is a back lot that we're standing on now, which really is very ordinary in the cold light of day, but we have shot so many outside sequences here for shows. You know, you've only got to go out here, put a few potted palms strategically into position, and you got yourself a jungle movie, for goodness sake.
Yep.
And we shot a lot of the early dramas in the black and white days out here. Of course, with colour it was more critical, we couldn't do it. But you know, out in this place, if the bushes could speak, boy, would they have a tale to tell.
Well, and Pete, how many shows do you think you did in your time here at Nine?
Oh golly, it's in the hundreds and hundreds, and as I say, with the audience, there would be millions of people who came in for those live shows. And you know, there's something, an added attraction about that, an added bonus for the company, is that you have those people come through your studio and see behind the scenes, and when they leave, you've got an opportunity to make them leave in a happy state of mind. And so, let's face it, everything's perception in television. Why do they watch 9/7? It's not just the programs, it's the mood, it's the atmosphere created, and you get a chance to create that goodwill with those people night after night after night. 200 people come through to watch Sale of the Century. Well, another 200 come through for the night. You know, it just adds up.
I think, especially now, I think people are starting to realise how much GTV9, these facilities will be missed. The comments we've had on our Facebook site, all we keep hearing is please do more tours, please show us more bits and pieces, whether it's the satellite, whether it's the camera, whether it's the bricks out the front. Yep. You know, I mean,
can remember when we filled this car park, it was just a dirt car park in those days, back in the mid-70s. We filled it with snow, and we had an actual Tonight Show in the snow. And we had a deal with the guy.
And it wasn't fake snow, it was real ice.
It was real snow with a ski jump. We had guys come in and do some stunts and stuff and throw, you know, made snowmen and all this. No, it was thick on the ground. No cars allowed in for 3 days while we set it up.
Wow.
They were the days.
They were the days. Well, Pete, I know you said that you provided people with a nice feeling when they came to GTV9. I think you've done that from people watching GTV9 and all the years.
Thanks.
People throughout Australia. I'm a Sydney boy, and I think you're an absolute legend, and it is such an honour to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us for this tour.
Been a pleasure.
I'm trying not to fawn, but it's a little hard not to.
It's lovely. It's nice. I can take all that. I'll give you 10 minutes to stop.
So thank you once again.
Pleasure.
It's been very interesting. Keep your comments coming to facebook.com/9news, and we'll have some more videos soon. Thanks again,
for watching too.
First on the ground at Mission Beach.
Here, Mission Beach, they're calling it Ground Zero, and you can tell why.
Cut off from the outside world.
First into devastated Tully.
The clock marking the exact time the cyclone struck.
Honestly, just really worried for our lives.
First with Cyclone Yassi's baby of hope.
A very natural birth in the most unnatural of circumstances.
We are expecting damage here tonight.
You really do see it first on 9 News.
We're here at GTV9 with the legendary Pete Smith, who's joined us again. Thank you, Pete. We appreciate your time. Very special street here, Pete. This is where the public get to come to Channel 9.
That's right. They come and go from here. This is the entrance to Studio 9, where most of the big major productions have done. These people are just coming out from a recording session of Hot Seat. But this is Jago Street, Richmond. Only a short little street as it is. It's a one-wayer. But all the audience, literally millions of people over the years, as I said, have come through this area. And we affectionately call it, not Jago Street, we call it Hey Hey It's Saturday Boulevard.
Yeah.
It's got a
and it was
nice
known like, it was actually the official sign for some time.
Yes, it was. Yes, the council allowed us to put it up. I don't know how official it became, but now it's gone, and soon we'll be gone too.
Yes, indeed. But this was the way, if someone was coming to a taping of a show, or indeed a live show, they would come up these stairs into the corridors of Channel 9, and this is how they would get here.
On a cold August night, they'd come in here freezing, and they'd sit down and be made welcome and feel the warmth of the whole kit and caboodle, and they'd see this man here, Graham Kennedy. There we are. We've walked in just here. The main entrance is out round here, and that's a great shot of the piano factory as it was. All still retained that facade as it is, and used by us.
Being built up in the middle a bit.
Yes, it has been built up in the middle, but there's the iconic chimney. Yeah. No longer there, but part of the industrial section of Richmond as it was then. Not so now, it's mainly residential.
So,
If the walls could speak, I guess all these photos would have a tale to tell down through the years, you know, and the Sullivans, as you recall, you might remember the Sullivans.
Absolutely.
There's Eddie in his younger days on the fledgling footy show as it was when it began all those years ago.
And didn't they do a marvellous job with that? I mean, that became
absolutely.
a ratings powerhouse.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Oh, look, there's a good-looking bloke there with Ernie Siegley. A very good-looking bloke. And, of course, I was always fond of animals, and so was Bert. So we always used to look after our furry friends. But this audience is milling around now, having seen the show. They may be going back in for another episode.
Right. So what would happen? You would come in here, obviously, you would sit here ready to go into the studio, and then through the magic doors into Studio 9. And it's funny, in a lot of these tours, we keep coming back to Studio 9, but there's a reason for that. It pulls you in, doesn't it? I mean,
well, it has been since 1964. It's been the centre, and of course, I can gain access because I've been here so long. I can go anywhere I please. So join me, please. Just come down here and have a look for yourself. Now, look, these are 4 walls that, when no show is on, it looks very, very ordinary, like a film studio or any television studio. But you know, in all the years I've been here, you never get sick of seeing, and if you've come in for a show, you'll know this, you never get sick of seeing the transformation that takes place from one show to another. But when this finishes today, the crew will come in overnight, they'll pull it all out, put in the next show, and on it goes.
But Pete, even the transformation between when the lights go down and the studio lights for the set come on, not the house lights. I mean, there's a big difference between Millionaire as it appears to us now and when they're actually recording the episode.
Oh yeah, once the lights go up and the music starts and the whole glamour of the thing is revealed. There's the we saw an old camera on a recent segment, but there's the latest sort of technology, which doesn't even look like a crane and a camera, does it? But it's the fly cam that goes up in the air in a hell of a hurry and can get you to places you couldn't possibly go yourself. But this is an amazing set done in this arena style, the gladiator, isn't it, sort of thing, where the contest takes place.
Absolutely.
And yet back there we've got the original audience area, which has been used for most of the shows.
And a staple of Hey Hey.
A staple of Hey Hey, and we remove that. There's mirrors behind that. We can make an audience look as though it's twice as many for different shows, you know, if the needs be.
We're giving away too many secrets.
Oh, no, I don't think so. And then up here, this is the unique part about this studio. There's a fly area. Now, in the old studios, we didn't have the luxury of this. You can preset show after show after show if you want to, with backdrops and curtains, all preset and all used in a moment's notice. Whereas in the old days, with the ceiling at the normal level, everything had to be dragged through double doors, and sometimes with only minutes to spare during a commercial break.
Amazing. It's amazing where this place has come, where it has been. I'm going to throw a quick question at you. First response, funniest moment here at GTV 9?
Funniest moment when I tripped on a banana skin, believe it or not, just like
Comedy classic.
And this guy here, Paul Bell, the floor manager, actually saved my bacon. I was almost ready to hit the floor. It wasn't funny. And Paul Bell, my dear friend, Paul Bell, who has, he has floor managed every... Thank you, Paul. You're a bit slow doing that.
I didn't get the memo.
Paul Bell has floor managed God knows everything, from Sale of the Century to Bert's quiz shows and God knows what. And Lucky Phil, who is our senior cameraman,
it's television royalty,
from the Hey Hey It's Saturday.
Hey, what are you doing
Lucky
here?
Phil, who became a star in his own right, thanks to Darryl bringing him on the show. And this guy has been here longer than anybody.
Pete, you helped my career more than anybody else.
Well, that's very nice of you to say so. And the nice thing about it is the boys in their black shirts get about 2.5 weeks without washing. It's wonderful. Congratulations to you both.
Guys, while we've got you here, it's obviously the end of an era with GTV 9 coming down. What will you remember most about your time here?
Probably working with Pete. We used to talk to the audience before shows like Sale of the Century, and we did some hilarious jokes, didn't we, Pete?
Yes, nothing got to air. It would have been a great staple for a show in its own right, but none of it went to air.
Right.
We had to keep the audience amused, and these boys were just so important, as far as I was concerned, in those warm-ups, as we used to call them. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
And what will you miss the most?
Well, I love the place. It was a great training ground for...
I mean, you were even on the Mick Malloy show. Short-lived, but we loved that show.
We loved that show.
We loved that show.
And I've got a car spot here.
Yeah.
Yes, and which I use quite often
I know.
We're
when you're
swapping
not
that
here.
car spot for a train ticket for you, all right?
Yes. Should we go now?
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay.
Thank you, Pete.
Good to see
Thank you, guys.
The
Thank
I
you.
was just walking past.
The first time I laid on, Paul's been a dear friend, and so is this guy, but the first time I laid eyes on him was when I came across in 64 from the ABC, and they got the first backpack camera like the camera that's photographing us now. This was the first one, and he was the first one to actually operate it and turn it onto the great king himself, onto Graham Kennedy.
Is that right?
And I remember that, and he did all the important backpack stuff. Everybody else was on a pedestal.
Long
Not
time
this
ago,
guy.
I know.
Phil Lambert's his name.
Damn things are too heavy now.
And he's and like a lot, you know, this just proves a point meeting these two guys. Yeah, we love the place, but you know something? The place has been its people. We've been so lucky to have these people. These are the last people you talk to before you go out and face that camera. When you're as nervy as hell, you go out. It doesn't matter whether you're Bert Newton, Graham Kennedy, whoever it is. Eddie talks to these guys just before he comes on, and you know it's a sort of calming influence because they're mates.
And what we say is, get out there.
Yeah, get out there and do it. You know?
Well, sometimes just get out.
Get out.
They know, you know they're there for you, and that's been a very important part of my career, having blokes
great.
like this backing us up.
Well, guys, we really appreciate you joining us. You are television legends. You may not be the most well-known television legends, but you are. You've brought us some of the most amazing shows that have ever been made on Australian television, so thank you very much.
Oh,
thank you for joining us on this video.
you.
We really appreciate it. Pete, once
Cheers.
again, thank you very much. If you've got any comments about what you've just seen and the people you've just met, just remember to go to facebook.com/9news. Pete, don't walk away. Your job here is not done.
Oh,
I just want to say thank you once again.
Pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you for everything you've done for us,
That's okay.
for Australian television.
keep watching, for Pete's sake.
We're here at GTV 9, it's Channel 9 in Melbourne, the historic building at 22 Bendigo Street, Richmond, and we're outside Studio 2. This is the news studio. Let's go in. Peter Hitchener is standing by to have a chat. Hello, Peter.
Good afternoon. Hello, Rob.
Hi, thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. This is the news studio.
This is it. This is the home of our news broadcasts every evening from Melbourne. Behind me, this panoramic view of the city of Melbourne. It's occasionally been invaded by a seagull, and occasionally giant flies mob the camera as well. But generally speaking, we keep the livestock out of the road and we do the news from here every afternoon.
Well, it's funny you mention that because we put the word out on Facebook that we were going to be in here, and we've had some questions. And here's some I prepared earlier.
Here we go.
And in actual fact, someone has actually asked about the seagull.
Yes.
So we've had Christopher ask us, what was going through your head when the giant bird came on TV?
Okay, let me tell you about it. I was reading away here a story about a cold case murder inquiry, a very big reward for information about it. I noticed that the camera crew started hiding behind their cameras, and there were sort of muffled giggles coming from behind the cameras. Not usually happen. I look over on the wall, and there on the monitor is this giant seagull behind me, just walking along with a very, unconcerned look on its face, took no notice of me, just kept going. And I felt, what do I do? Do I make a joke about it? Because it lent itself to pantomime lines like, it's behind you. but I thought, I won't do that.
Exactly appropriate.
No, I thought I won't do that with a cold case murder inquiry. Yes. So I just kept reading, and I thought, nobody will notice.
And then it became this internet phenomenon.
And what happened is that the camera that takes our lovely city skyline view has been raised since then, so that any seagull that wants to make an appearance will have very long legs or maybe high heel shoes.
Police say they hope someone burdened with information will help solve a 27-year-old gangland murder.
Let's have a look at the studio here.
Okay, great. Now this is where the sports presenter sits every afternoon, except at the moment he's out at the golf. Lucky Tony Jones watching Tiger Woods and company perform.
I'd be happy about that.
Oh, lucky thing. And over there is where Lavinia Nixon does the weather in Melbourne every night, telling us about what we can expect. Last year, towards the end of last year, Lavinia would turn with a great flourish to the weather map over on that monitor over there and block out most of the Mornington Peninsula and part of the Bellarine Peninsula too, because there was a baby bump involved. The baby's been born and now she's back to normal and telling us about the weather all over again.
Well, actually, people have asked us about that. I remember on our Facebook page, people have been saying, how does she get from here? Because then we take a full screen graphic and then she gets back. But if you actually look at it, it's not a far distance to get over, is it?
Distance, and so what she's doing is the on the 7-day forecast, she'll start talking about tomorrow's weather, and then the next day. And while she's doing that, she just comes back over here and quietly finds the chair and sits down obediently. And then at the end of it, we have a chat about the weather.
And it's like magic,
and that's it.
She's back here.
Yes, exactly. And it just looks neater for the family shot at the end when the three of us are there together.
Yeah. And over here, what have we got over here?
Well, over here, there is what used to be the Today Show set. If people were in Melbourne being interviewed by Carl and Lisa, who were in some other part of Australia, they'd sit over there on that simulated Melbourne skyline, in front of that simulated Melbourne skyline, not used anymore because these live pictures look so much better. And so that's where Melbourne interviews come from these days.
And obviously it's a multi-purpose studio because I can see we've got chroma key screens. We can use a green chroma key, blue chroma key, blacks.
If you'd like to do some production in this studio, which sometimes happens, you know, you can sort of run the screens around and do all sorts of things here. It's been used for many years. It started in 1956, but of course the building was originally put up in 1909 as the Wertheim Piano Factory, and then it became the Heinz Baked Beans and Tomato Sauce Factory, and then it became a television station in 56.
And now it has this rich history.
Yes.
And there is such a fondness in Melbourne for GTV9. I mean,
Yes.
you know, people want to get as much of it as they can before it goes.
Yes, I think so. We've had some studio tours which we've offered to charitable organisations and other people if they're interested in having a look through, and the response has been overwhelming, and it brings back a lot of memories for people who may have come here for In Melbourne Tonight, or the wrestling with Jack Little, or It Could Be You with Tommy Hanlon Jr. So there are lots of reasons that people that have been here over the years.
Well, it is such a rich history, and it is actually such a thrill to be here.
Yes.
And these corridors, I mean, the people, the stars,
the stories they could tell. Thank goodness they can't.
How many of those stories are you involved in, Pete?
Not many. I have a very tame life. However, there've been, you know, lots of things here over the years and lots of big stars. Thank you. People like, of course, Graham Kennedy, Bert Newton, Don Lane, Ernie and Denise, Daryl Summers, and Hey It's Saturday, and you know, many people. It was really the place to be. It has been the place to be if you want to be seen in Melbourne.
Well, actually, and we're out. This is a door that holds a lot of history.
Yes, it's the Gold Room, sometimes inhabited by a newsreader, but quite often over the past it's been inhabited by Bert Newton, Don Lane, Graham Kennedy, Daryl Summers.
And this is the number one dressing room. Oh, we can go in? Okay, fantastic.
Yes.
Okay, terrific. And this has been the number one dressing room. This is where the biggest stars on the network have called home.
Well, except that the biggest stars of the network, people like Bert and Eddie and others, actually have better dressing rooms than this these days. But I'm in here for the moment anyway, till we move. And it's very comfortable. You could sleep here. I don't, but you could.
Dedicated to the job, ready to break news 24 hours a day.
There's another news break coming any minute. I've got to be ready for that.
Right. And is there a little story you can tell us about something that might have happened in these walls that you've heard?
Not that I've heard, no. Well, no.
But I mean, it was back in the day. It was a place of parties, wasn't
Yes, it was.
You know, I mean, it had its bar area, and you know, a lot of entertaining was done in this room.
Exactly right. Exactly right. There was, I mean, in the early days of television, there was plenty of live television every night, the variety shows, and that's what GTV really specialised in. It did lots of things really well, but the variety shows were what people wanted to see. So there was always something happening here, and anyone who was in town, any movie star, any author, politicians would make their way at some point or other to GTV for an interview and an appearance on one of the shows. It might have been a current affair, but it was probably IMT.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for taking the time to show us around. Peter is actually going to do a few more videos with us as we have a look at this historic building. If you've got any comments, go to facebook.com/9news and make sure you like the News Facebook page, because that's where the videos will be uploaded. Peter, thank you very much.
Great pleasure. Thank you, Rob.
We're taking a look back at the history of GTV9 here in Melbourne. We're inside the very first studio built here, Studio 1, and Pete Hitchener is joining us again to talk us through the history of this place. It's fascinating, isn't it?
It's wonderful, isn't it? A large studio, the first one they built here, on the night that the place was officially opened back in 56 or 57, there was an invited crowd here, ladies in their finery, men in their dinner suits. The camera crews had white shirts and ties just to keep them from everybody else. In drove the Governor of Victoria in a large Humber Super Snipe and got out and officially opened the place. Amazing. And this was where everything came from in the first days. This was where Tommy Hanlon Jr. would do It Could Be You. This is where the wrestling came from, and the news at night, and IMT. I mean, it's got a rich history, this place.
Well, everything here has a rich history,
Yes.
but to be the actual first studio is phenomenal.
It's wonderful.
And the thing that struck me when we first came in here was how long it is. I wasn't quite expecting that from the first studio.
A TV studio.
Yeah.
Well, because in those days it was following the lines of the Hollywood system of the 1920s and 30s, where they had big studios and they had sets and they had a band on the payroll and dancers on the payroll and writers and producers and people who made the sets and painted the sets and electricians and everybody. It was like Hollywood, and so you needed big studios for these things. Now it's changed a bit now. That back there where we were is where these days you'll see infomercials for Kerry Ann Kennelly, and in Melbourne you'd see the Sunday Footy show or Footy Classifieds come from there. There's a band shell hidden over there. We don't have a band anymore, never mind. It comes off CDs these days. And this, of course, is now used. Can you picture what this might be used for?
I wonder. It couldn't be...
Do you think that those initials there, right there on the desk, gives us any indication?
And they're quite iconic, those initials, aren't
Aren't
they?
they?
ACA, Current Affair.
Yes. This is the desk that Tracy Grimshaw sits at to present that show every night, right after the news.
And it's, it's interesting. It's sharing a studio space with other productions.
Yes.
Obviously when Kerry Ann's down here doing the actual show, she'll do it from down there.
She does. That's exactly right. It's a very busy production centre, always has been. And in fact, that's a good segue to our next place that we're going to. Setting a cracking pace here. Because, as I mentioned, back in the old days, we had a band on the station.
Yeah.
And they did musical numbers every night. And, of course, they needed to make it all sound good. And so they recorded them right here in what used to be the recording studio for the bands, which is now used... It's these days not a recording studio anymore, although back in the 70s, the Skyhooks were in here recording, and Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs, right here. Now, if you look around, you might notice something that, well, it looks like the room is used for something, and it certainly is. There are some of the parts of the set for Kids WB, which is also one of the productions here at Channel 9. It goes out also on Go Channel with Heidi and Shura.
But what is amazing about this studio, Peter, is that it's a small studio,
yes,
but it's actually still a large studio.
It is, and a bit untidy, but you expect that. Now, if you have a look at here, the staple of television all along has been a barrel.
From the first days.
From the very early days, and nothing's changed. A barrel to get people's entries so that they can win a prize. And the wheel, this is the Heidi and Shura wheel for Kids WB, so that they can give something away to a lucky person drawn from the barrel. So you give it a spin and who knows? Your life could change forever. That's what television does. It's the dream factory.
Well, and this place was the dream factory.
It was.
Some of the people, some of the stars that have come through here.
Oh, everyone came through this place, and it is I've worked here since 1974, and I love it. It's just part of the fabric of Melbourne. It's terrific.
Well, Peter, thank you very much once again for taking the time. We will have more videos from Peter. We're holding him ransom to...
If you can stand it, if you've got the oxygen, you'll need all that.
Well, you have such a rich history of this place. You know it. There's no one better to talk to. So thank you for taking the time out. Make sure you keep checking on facebook.com/9news. We'll keep uploading some more videos as the weeks go. Peter, once again, thank you very much.
Good on you, Rob.
Look forward to the next one.
Thank you.
Cheers. Once again, we're here at GTV 9 with television news presenter and TV fan. That's what I'm gathering here today, Peter Hitchener.
Yes, thank you, Rob. I must say I really like this place. It's a lot of memories here, and it's very interesting. And if you walk through the props bay, which we are at the moment, you get to see something about television that we all know. It's about the image of things, not necessarily the substance of it. And that's where props come in. Now, if we were doing In Melbourne Tonight with Rob McKnight, you'd come to the props master, Stuart, and say, Stuart, we want to dress the set with things that, you know, that set the scene. Now, it might be a snowman, but probably wouldn't be a snowman.
I don't know.
Or oh, that's important too. Quiet, please. Auditions in progress. They happen around this place. There is, there's something else that you might find on television.
A barrel.
A barrel. Another one. They're everywhere, I tell you. But you know, you'd set the scene. It might be, well, it could be just about anything. And the props that have been used on shows here at Channel 9 ever since the beginning have been kept. Everything that's been used in a show has been kept. There are thousands of them. Now, because we're relocating to smaller premises, a lot of the props are not being kept. They're being moved on. But some of the things they're just keeping. And one of them, I want to take you in and show it to you.
Okay.
There's a very famous photograph somewhere of Graham Kennedy, the then king of television, dressed up as a king with a crown.
An
on.
iconic photo.
Yes, an iconic photo. I think he may have been sort of lounging around on his throne with court jester Bert Newton. The throne is here. It's been kept.
Oh, my goodness.
Come on in and have a look.
Oh, this is an exciting moment, actually.
Yes. Can you find your way through the plants and the tables and chairs and things? This is Graham Kennedy's throne.
Wow.
Glorious, isn't it? And as plastic as the day is long, but it doesn't matter because it looks...
do that again with the mic.
Plastic as the day is long, but that doesn't matter because it just says television of
But
the early
history
days.
of it, Peter,
Yeah.
the history is just amazing. And
Terrific.
as we walk these corridors, that's
I better cover it up
well
again.
done, well done. As we walk these corridors, and I suddenly feel like I'm going through a jungle. What comes through, and I'm a TV tragic and a fan, and I've got a feeling you're a little bit like that yourself. Yeah. The history of this place comes out, and it will be sad when
Yes,
this site closes.
It will, and of course it's inevitable with progress. Things change, the way programs are done. That's changed over the years, and you don't have that kind of system anymore. But it's fun remembering it, and I think it's terrific having these behind-the-scenes glimpses for people to have a look at and just get a sense of what it used to be like in the old days. We're walking through now some of the other props that have made their way into our consciousness. The Pluck-a-Duck wheel, another wheel.
Well, talk about TV history. I mean, Pluck-a-Duck, it's been a TV staple for many years now.
When I first came to work here in 1974, Hey Hey It's Saturday was on a Saturday morning, and it was pretty much a cartoon show with this ensemble of
out of that
people.
Studio 9, which we will have a look at in another video.
Yes, we must go in there, but it was just sort of pretty much an ad-lib show, and then it went on to become, you know, an institution in Melbourne and, in fact, in Australian television. Lots of things have come from here.
And how has the place changed? I mean, you see,
It hasn't.
I was about to say, it doesn't look like it has.
It hasn't really, except where we're headed now. There used to be a swimming pool that was used for... Well, I'm not quite sure what it was used for. It had a sunken wall so that you could take cameras down there and get underwater shots.
Wow.
I don't know quite what they were thinking because I think it was only ever used once, and somebody said that the light from the cameras cracked the glass in the observation
Okay, so
windows.
obviously I see no signs of a pool here.
No, you don't see any signs of a pool here now. You do see Swirly and Tim having a quiet, relaxing time in the barbecue area, which is what it now is, because the pool wasn't used that much. And if you have a look around, you can probably guess why. Because who wants to go swimming when you've got everybody else in the building able to look in and see how smart you look in your bathers? So yes, it's a barbecue area now, and it's much more used than it ever was as the pool.
And what is your fondest memory of being here at GTV 9?
I don't know. That's a great question. I just think coming in here every day and getting to know everybody and being part of the team. It's a terrific team.
Well, it's been a long history. You've been involved. You've been at this place longer than most people. It's quite an achievement, really.
Yes, it's been fun.
Okay. Well, once again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob.
Next, we go into Studio 9.
And we shake hands to say thank you. I didn't think you was going to notice that.
I didn't notice. I'm in my own world. I'm doing my piece to camera.
Oh, yes. Don't let anything get in the way of a nice close-up. That's all I can say.
Studio 9's next. Remember to go to facebook.com/9news. We're here at Channel 9 Melbourne, outside the famed Studio 9. Peter, this is it. This is the the magic maker.
Yes, it really is. It was built in the 60s for variety shows. They were the thing at the time.
Yeah.
And Graham Kennedy, of course, was the name. He's the name we remember with variety shows, but there have been many of them from this studio over the years. The studio was built pretty much for him, and is in use to this day, even though, of course, Graham isn't around anymore, but it's been pretty much in constant use ever since. So during the course of a year, we might have the footy show coming from here, Millionaire Hot Seat with Eddie Maguire. Come on in and have a look and see if it's set up for anything now.
This is the moment, going into the famed Studio 9. It's an exciting moment. We've seen so many productions from this studio.
Yes.
Obviously, the big one at the moment is Hey Hey It's Saturday, but
Yes.
Millionaire Hot Seat's also done
That's
from
right.
here.
That's right. And even though there's studio seating at the end there that you can see in the distance, that's in there all the time. But for a show like the Footy Show or Millionaire Hot Seat, they actually bring in stadium seating specific to that show. So Millionaire Hot Seat is sort of done pretty much in the round with the audience around watching what happens. And the Footy Show, well, they have stadium seating along the side wall there, and the talent up against the set, which at the moment is set up for Hey Hey It's Saturday.
And, well, that's the thing. Every production has its own configuration. So
Yes.
we see the seats are there for this production, but for the Footy Show, I think they're over here, aren't they?
Correct, yes. So that stadium seating is wheeled in. But this studio has been used for all sorts of things over the years. It was used for Sale of the Century, but it was also the interiors for Division 4, which was a great cop show that we did here at Channel 9, or back in the 70s, I think. Simon Windsor, the great movie director, directed episodes of that here at Channel 9. I mean, it's got, you know,
this is just
all
this
sorts of
history
shows.
that we talk about.
Yes.
And obviously this isn't as far as the studio goes.
No.
This is one of the great things a lot of productions do, is that they have what is the set, but then it opens up, and those doors would open up to reveal something back here.
Yes, but
which
wait,
isn't
there's
in there
more.
at the moment.
That's right, nothing in here at the moment, but if if you're doing something like Hey Hey It's Saturday, well, there could be a band back here all set to go, or ballet, or whatever it is they're doing can be done from here. And if you look up, you can see how vast the lighting grid is. And back in the days of Graham Kennedy was such a professional and so much aware of every part of the production that he knew where the lights were meant to be for every sketch and for every part of the program. So
and then he would make sure something was planned to go wrong.
That's exactly right. Yes, in Graham's time, things were sometimes planned to go wrong, like when he came running out through the opening of the set, and the microphone cord got jammed in the set, and he pulled it and the set fell down. That, of course, was rehearsed and meant to happen. But when he was sitting at a desk, a motorised desk, and it took off, that wasn't quite meant to go the way it did, because it nearly ended in disaster, because he was heading apparently for a crane camera or a microphone. And it could have ended badly, but fortunately...
Thankfully it didn't.
It
It actually became TV gold.
Indeed.
Now, there's always more than one entrance to a studio as well.
Right. And for this one, they have these large doors over here so that you can bring sets in from the other side.
Which is how they do fast changeovers, I guess.
Exactly right, yes. And so this is, we go out here to another staging bay that now has a nice little roof over it, because they got sick of the sets getting rained on.
Well, you were telling me about this, and
Yes.
this was built for the program The Price is Right.
The Price is Right. When they were inviting people to come on down, they'd set up a whole week's worth of episodes and sets and things over here, and then they were just wheeled in and out of the studio as they were required. But of course, it had to have a roof in case it rained.
That would be obviously devastating if all the sets go.
And out here where we are at the moment was where Melbourne viewers and people in the southern states will have probably seen Shane Crawford running down at the end of his fundraising marathon from Adelaide to Melbourne. He ran down Jago Street, which is out on the other side of those gates, ran in through here for his return to Melbourne for the Footy Show, and there was a huge reception, and there were people lining the route of the run, and he arrived it was very emotional. It was a very emotional fundraiser for breast cancer, and it was terrific. So,
which is something you've been able to do in this part. Pete, this place does amaze me, and it's obviously it wasn't built for as a TV studio initially, because I've just seen a lady walking up these stairs into another place that, if you were building a TV studio, you wouldn't have them all over the place. But that is the magic of this place, isn't it? There's little pockets over here. I mean, I'm an occasional visitor here. I have not seen everywhere. I've not been in every part.
Oh no, then there's one part we won't be going to on any of these tours, and that's down into the dungeon. It's sort of like a basement downstairs. And I don't like going down there. You always feel that you're going to bump into something unpleasant.
Well, look, we'll see if we can convince Pete to take us down there. No. But thank you once again.
Thanks, Rob.
I've got the handshake right.
Thank you.
Keep a lookout at facebook.com/9news. Post your comments and your questions there. Any other videos you'd like us to make, and we'll try to do so. Thank you once again.
Good on you, Rob. Thanks.
As a bit of a bonus feature, I've convinced Pete Hitchener from Channel 9 News in Melbourne to take us down to the dungeon. He just mentioned it to us, and I've begged, pleaded, and he's consented.
Don't say I didn't warn you. Come on.
Okay, first of all, we're heading downstairs. So we were on the ground level, and now we're going down to our basement area, but as you call the dungeon.
Well, I think of it as the dungeon because that's what I've always imagined a dungeon to look at. And for years, this is where archival kinnies and things like that were kept, and old films and so on.
Wow.
And I never know what you're going to find down here. I never come down here, I must say. This place is so... the whole complex is so sort of far-flung that it's easy to get lost.
Well, we can see old Betamax machines, Betacams, SP Betacams, which are not in use anymore. We've gone digital.
Yes, indeed. And I don't know what they're worth or how many thousands...
They were worth a lot at the time, weren't they?
How many thousands of hours they've played to air over the years.
Well, they would have been the playback machines for some of our iconic shows.
Yes, for sure. Sure. And locked in there are old TV monitors, bits and pieces of valves and things that you might have used on earlier equipment. I don't actually know what's over here.
I think it's sort of a bit of a discovery, isn't it?
Yes, it is a voyage of discovery.
I mean, it's obviously also what we'd be having at the moment are people clearing out because of the relocation.
Correct.
But there's another little door there.
There's a lift that goes up to the other floors in the building, so we can get out if we get locked in here this afternoon, and I hope we don't.
And there's people working down here.
Jenny Allen, who's from our news library. Come and say hello to us, Jenny.
Say hi to our Facebook followers.
Hi, Facebook followers. I'm packing up.
and tell us what you've got hidden down here, Jen.
This is the to be trashed section, but I'm working in the library. I'm working in here with footage from the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, weeding out things we're going to give to other people to keep them. So, thousands of tapes.
It must be quite amazing coming across a lost episode of Graham Kennedy or something like that. The things you must see, that is such a delight for people that love this stuff.
It's really good fun. I'm working more just the news component rather than the shows. Someone else has done all of the shows. I'm working with things like the Westgate disaster and bits of early footage and the 56 Olympics and early television and in film and crime scenes, lots of crime scenes. Lots of wharfies and all those things that happen in the docks.
So Pete was a bit nervous about coming down here. Are you okay?
Special. Very, very rare that people get down here.
How did it feel the first time you actually came down to this basement? How did you feel about coming in here where you never quite know what you're going to find?
For me, like going back to when I first started work in the early 70s when I worked in a place which had a basement.
Right, so nothing's changed.
Exactly like it, except there's good shelving here.
Thank you very
much.
Good to know.
You've destroyed my illusions, Jen.
There is a big black panther down here, according to my staff, who get the cats coming when it's going to rain.
Oh, okay.
So we know that there's one here somewhere, so there we go. Enjoy.
Thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Jenny. Jen's our...
Well, we got more than we bargained for.
Absolutely wonderful. I didn't know that Jenny was here, our senior news librarian, whose job it is to catalogue everything that goes to air, so that if you want to do a story about something that happened in the 50s, we probably have covered it, and we'll have film of it, So it's very important archival material.
And that's been some of the great tradition of Nine News. You know, I mean, it has been here covering the events. I mean,
Yes.
it's got such a wealth of experience.
Yes.
And you must be very proud to be part of that and
Very much.
leading that.
Very much. I worked with Sir Eric Pearce when I first joined the company. We read the news together for about 4 years, and then I was Brian Naylor's deputy, and took over from him in 1998 when he retired. So I feel that I've had a long association with the place and some wonderful mentors and nice people to work with.
How will you be the day it comes down?
Well, that's part of life. You move to whatever's next, and television is always evolving, finding out what people want to watch, what sort of shows people enjoy. That's just evolution. So you know that you must move on, but there are a lot of memories here too.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time out for this series of videos, and appreciate you bringing us down into the dungeon, even though you didn't want to come down.
Now let's get out.
Well, actually, you need to run because you've got some radio to do.
Yes.
You've still got a news service tonight.
Absolutely.
Pete, thank you very much.
Good
I
on
can't
you,
tell
Rob.
you what a pleasure it's been.
Thank you, Rob.
Keep a lookout at facebook.com/9news for more videos and features, and leave a comment about what you'd like to see. Thanks very much. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
We've had a lot of response on Facebook to our GTV tours, and we've been asked to do some more before this building comes down. The wonderful Peter Hitchner has joined us again.
Hello,
Hi,
Rob.
Pete.
You going to shake hands today? I'll give it a shake. Behind us, you'll notice there's an audience. Look, it's behind you, as they say in pantomime. It's the audience for a Millionaire Hot Seat recording session, and this is the studio where it comes from. A lot of other things have come from here over the years. Lots to show you as well. Not only the studio, which you've seen on another video, but upstairs into the control room. Come with me.
The reason we started here is because one of the requests we had on Facebook was to see backstage of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Now, they're actually about to shoot, so that's why we're popping off. But the control room, the Studio 9 control room, which has been the home, if the studio's been the home of great entertainers, the Studio 9 control room has been the home of some wonderful talent behind the scenes.
Absolutely. How about Peter Feynman, one of the great directors of television and films? He's the man who... Oops, don't close the door on this man's face. He's too important. Peter Feynman...
We're going for bloopers every video, I would say.
Now, yes, Peter Feynman has produced a lot of the shows from here, and here's a voiceover booth. Before we get to the control room, one we prepared earlier, if you go in and have a look, that is where Dickie Nee, John Blackman, came from for Hey Hey It's Saturday. He wasn't actually down on the floor. This is a secret.
Oh, can we give that away?
The voice was done upstairs, and that's his booth. So you've seen that, and now I think you should...
Another bit of here.
Oh, yeah, close the door. That's the way.
That's classic old TV.
Shut the door tight. Soundproof. No studios are
So
soundproof
is he locked
these
in
days.
there when they're doing
for the
episodes?
shows, yes.
Fantastic.
Okay, now.
After you this time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This is the control room. Hooray! And there's Dusty. Introduce the gang for us, Dusty.
We've got Sylvia, who's the DA.
Hi, Sylvia.
Hi.
We've got Archie, who's the effects.
Hi.
Archie.
We've got Leanne, the viz operator. No, Leanne's a DA.
We were just talking about the fact this has been the home. We've talked about Studio 9 was the home of a lot of on-air great talent, but there's been some wonderful creative people up here in the control room that have put those shows to air.
They're not here today.
Oh, Dusty.
Oh, some.
I was thinking about Peter Feynman, for instance, a gentleman you'd have worked for as a great director, and you being a cameraman at the
I
time.
didn't work much with Peter.
Did you not? Was he a little before your time? You're so young, I keep forgetting.
Yeah, he's a bit before my time.
So you're about to press the buttons and make this happen, make the magic happen for Millionaire Hot Seat.
Yep, that's it. We're ready to go.
Good work. I just need to show everyone the audio booth.
Quick question, because I know I'll get this on Facebook. How many cameras do you have on the Hot Seat show?
7.
So 7. And so, what kind of moves do they all do? What positions are you going for?
Well, there's one on Eddie, there's one on the contestant, there's one that chases shots of the other contestants, there's a 2-shot, camera 2 up the middle, there's camera 6, which is the big technocrane that does all the moves, and there's camera 7, which chases the contestants' friends.
Okay.
At what stage are you going to learn how to use them?
I just got to work out which order they go and I'll be fine.
Terrific. And they're actually you guys are about to do another episode, so we'll just quickly have a look at the audio booth before we finish our tour here in Control Room 9. Is it called Control Room 9?
Yes, Studio 9 Control. And Lindsay Ray is a great audio operator, and he can tell you how this desk works, because look how many channels there are.
Well, there are 80 channels.
How many of them work?
Nearly all of them. And this was primarily built for Hey Hey Saturday, and this went in at the end of 91.
Yeah.
It was designed for that, and has done all the shows that we do, all the big shows in here. And today, of course, we're doing Millionaire. So,
now, is this so big because of, Hey Hey was renowned for having all those audio effects? Yes. Someone would say something in the audio?
That is what I did, and that's what I do over there. Right, and that's what I've done on this current series. But this was this big for the house band that was here, and all the visiting bands were done on that side of the console over there. And all in the middle here were all the host microphones for all the people, and then all the sound effects I did over here.
Okay, so is it just one person controlling all that?
Yes, one person controlling this. Normally someone sitting with him or her, just being a director, like an assistant, helping out with anything that you need to grab, maybe two-ways or additional videotape machines. And then over here, everything that I did feeds into that console so that we can play any of the sound effects. And we're just doing a couple of little bits and pieces today. But normally these were all the one-shot devices for all the sound effects. In the old days, and just behind Peter there, are some old cart machines.
Oh, look at those.
The very last show.
Right.
Which we didn't end up using, but Darren wanted them. And we did that, but that's what we used to have all the way along here. I'll just turn that down a bit, it's very loud, isn't it? So we went from analogue cart machines to digital audio. So that's what.
And the digital would have made it easier, presumably.
Yes, but you couldn't layer everything as much. What I used to be able to do with 9 cart machines was play one piece of music, then you have a waterfall going, and then something else. These days, all you can really do is go music under segments, prize reads, and any replays for visiting bands. And then these ones were all the one-shot effects that Daryl would call for or whatever. And that's the old Dickie Knee whip crack which I don't have loaded at the moment. But I used to push that every time Dickie would disappear.
And we'd hear the
yeah. Okay. So, and then the phone ring was here, and that's what you can see here. That was from the original, and that we were using up until last Saturday night.
So when the wrecking ball comes through, what's going to be the biggest thing you miss?
Well, sitting here for 30 years, because I've been here for 30 years, both in a freelance and full-time capacity. And it'll just be sad to be sitting somewhere else, because there is history, isn't there, Peter? As we all know, that's what there is with this. But, we'll continue on and hopefully do the same thing. If I go, I'm taking these with me.
Nicely said. Well,
right.
Thank you very much,
An absolute
Lindsay.
pleasure. Absolute
Appreciate that.
pleasure.
Peter Hitchener, as always, thank you very much for another tour at GTV. We will be doing another one. Keep your comments coming. We're trying to fulfill as many requests as we can. Go to facebook.com/9news. I've said it in just about every video, and I almost stuff it up on this one.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Well, how many videos are we in? That's facebook.com/9news.